Welcome to the Business Behind the Scene podcast with Francesca Moi, where we talk all about real business problems, real solutions, and getting actual results in your business. Hello everybody, and welcome to Business Behind the Scene, where I love to share with you all the good things and bad things about behind the scene of business that nobody talks about. Nobody knows. Everybody see other people's businesses and they think everything is perfect. And they're like, why is not like this in my business? So the truth is, all the businesses are a mess. We all try to improve. We're trying to get better. And today we're going to talk about a really hot topic that we all know that if we don't get on this train, on the AI train, we're going to get behind and our business is going to probably die in the next 3 to 5 years. So let's get onto it. And we got the expert that I've been following for a while and having a look what she does. My team found it on social media and I was like, whoo, fantastic. And so we have Caroline Kennedy. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Francesca. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. So first, I would love for you to share to everybody what is your business, how long have you been around, all of that, and then we're going to go into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Caroline Kennedy. I'm a former CEO in the private and corporate sector. The last business I led was a $250 million business with 500 people nationally. Now, clearly, I didn't start there. I had to work my way up. And about 10 years ago, I had decided that I'd reached the pinnacle of my career. I'd achieved a lot. I'd significantly grown businesses in like the global financial crisis and when our industry was being disrupted, when I was in travel, but I was able to significantly grow those businesses when everybody else or our competitors were really stalling. So for me, I thought about what do I want to do next and what does that look like? And then I transitioned into, I work with some of Australia's top CEOs and executives and entrepreneurs who are looking to scale their business. And I've been doing that for the past 10 years and love it.
I was muted. That's fantastic. That's great to hear. I would love to know, obviously, you've been focusing mostly on AI. So tell me why AI, how did you come about that?
Yeah, so I think I've always been ahead of the curve, and I was talking about AI about 7 years ago, and it was so funny because I was getting crickets on LinkedIn and everywhere, and I was saying how AI was going to disrupt our industries, and for me, I've always been about what is our relevance and how do we remain relevant? So I like to keep on the front foot of things. I get asked now to talk to a lot of organizations on AI. For instance, I did a keynote for CBA. And I think for me, what I know is the biggest risk right now is that most business owners or leaders are asking which AI tools they should be using. But I think that's the wrong starting point. The better question is, where can AI strengthen performance in my business? And that's, I think, for me, about how you think, and I call it the leadership stack, how you strategize, think, act, create, and know with AI, rather than what are the tools I should be using. Tools are great, don't get me wrong, we need to be using them, but there's so much noise out there that I think if we keep focusing on tools, we're not necessarily going to make progress. A lot of people are talking about, the chat bots, and now we're seeing a transition into the agentic, so the agent side of things as well. But first and foremost, I think we need to start with strategize. What are the biggest constraints and the growth constraints in my business? And how do I use AI to solve that constraint? So that's the first kind of leadership stack element. I can give you maybe a story around, that. So I was working with an organization, and they're in high growth. They've got a field team or a sales team out in market in each state in Australia. And one of the individuals was performing at a really high standard, and everybody else was underperforming. So I said to them, right, that's a major constraint because if we can elevate everybody's performance, what's going to happen is we're obviously going to scale a lot quicker. And so I said, how do we capture what this one individual does so well? So what I recommended that they do is get Claude, right? And Claude is an AI tool, and I've actually got one in front of me so I can bring it up and show you. It's like a little card, like a little credit card sleeve, and it works on also a desktop as well, but it's got this sleeve. And what you can do is you can use this and you can attach it to your phone. So when you're on phone calls, it'll actually record the nuances that are going on with why did this salesperson do so well, A, during a one-on-one meeting, but B, also on a phone call. And what are the common patterns and themes that we can see with this individual? And then how do we use those common patterns and themes to then implement frameworks within the business, right?
Right.
So,
So,
yeah,
so just let me ask you a question
yeah.
because I'm thinking of the people listening to this and might not have ever heard of Plod. So Plod is a device that you attach to your phone, and then does it do the recording of the voice, or does
Yeah,
it transcribe it? Does it connect to your computer? How does it work?
it does all of those three things.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So you can either record via phone, like I said before, or you can record via desktop. You can sit in a meeting, for instance, and just bring this with you and it will record. I've used it in cafes and it still works. It's still in groups when I've done training, and it'll give you the meeting notes, but it'll also give you the outcomes and the nuances. And you can ask it via desktop, why did, let's say, Alice do so well in this sales meeting? What were the questions she asked? And then you ask it those particular things, and it'll pull out exactly why she did so well.
Right. And you obviously, for legal reason, you will have to let the person know that you're recording the call for coaching purposes, something like that.
Yeah, of course. There
Yeah.
are, ethical elements to go with
Yeah.
it, but most people are okay with that as well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you've got to think about, first and foremost, what's your biggest constraint in business right now? And then how can you use AI, whether that be the tool or as a thinking partner to solve the constraint, rather than thinking, which tools do I need? And then
Mm.
going down rabbit holes with those tools.
So Plode, what it does is that it takes the information, but then you have to sort of prompt the GPT that you're using
Yeah.
to understand, to analyze it, to understand. So what is this person is doing well, and
Yep.
maybe the script or whatever, right?
Yep, yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And you can ask it whatever questions. You can extract the information, then put it into whether you're using, Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot, and then you can do the analysis there as well.
Yeah.
And it sees patterns. You can use tools, whether that be Claude, ChatGPT, to see patterns in your business that might be constraining your growth.
Because that's one of the biggest thing, right? We want to clone some of the team members. We want sometimes to clone
Yeah,
ourselves,
yeah,
and so that could be a tool that we're using for us to really capture those moments. Because it happens sometimes that some clients cannot jump on a Zoom, so then my team is like, I couldn't record the call because I was on a phone. It's like and so that's like a little solution there for us to still capture that talent to be able to do it. So that's one of the tips that Caroline shared with us, everybody. So keep following her on social media because that's just one of many. So have a look at what she shares with everybody. So let me ask you something. What is the biggest myth about AI, like that business owners need to stop believing because it's just not helping them?
yeah. I would say, and this goes to my second part of the framework, which is think. Uh, AI feeds you what you feed it, right? And so, for instance, I've set all of mine up in the background. I tell it who I am, I tell it my business, what I'm looking to achieve, my client type, but I also tell it that it needs to challenge me. It needs to challenge my thinking, and I don't want it feeding back to me. Great work, Caroline. I agree with you. And I see this all the time. I see it with my clients whereby they're not asking or challenging its thinking. And therefore, I think the biggest risk to us is we go down rabbit holes as business owners without actually knowing whether it's in the right direction. I'll give you an example of that at a higher level. So, for instance, when we think about getting it to challenge our thinking, you look to what happened with Deloitte, whereby, I mean, they charged, 500,000 for a government report that was written by AI that had all of these fake quotes and fake sightings in it, right? That didn't even exist. And so the biggest challenge for us as humans is that we just believe everything it says. And you would have heard of hallucinations. So we can use it to challenge our assumptions and sharpen our decisions because there's so much AI slop out there right now. People are not leaning into challenging the AI to get it to a standard that is of high quality. And I see it everywhere. There's so much AI slop. And it's our responsibility to push it to think, to push it to even have a contrarian view so that you're thinking differently and you're not just buying into what it's feeding you and the assumptions that it's making as well.
It's fascinating, right? So if we have a team member giving us an idea that we're not sure about, we will question them. But because it's AI, we just have this assumption that it's perfect and it's right and we're wrong and they're right. And it's fascinating. So this is another very good point of saying we need to challenge AI. We need to make sure that we ask the right questions. We need to make sure that we go a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And it happens, like sometimes I ask to my team, go and do some research on GPT, and then they come back with the answer. And I'm like, I take the same answer, I go on GPT, I ask a little bit more, and then I get the real thing that I wanted to know about. So definitely go in depth rather than say in surface. And that's with any relationship, right? And with
Yep.
any person out there, you will do that. So we need to do the same with AI. So would you say that we need to treat AI as one of our team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say a superpowered team member because AI is thinking right now and the IQ level is extremely high and it's just going to get higher. And we can leverage that absolutely. But what it means is that it can falter our thinking and our challenging. So just be aware of that. Like you said, Francesca, it's so important to challenge it. But it can superpower everything that we do. And I'm sure that many of your listeners have seen some efficiency gains, etc. with it. I know I have in my business and a lot of my clients have. And therefore, it's thinking about how we amplify that, but in a strategic way, not just in I'm dabbling, throwing things at the wall, hoping that it sticks, but how does it feed into your overall strategy, which I think is really important.
Well, that's what's going to be my next question is like, how can AI help CEOs make better strategic decisions in the business?
Yeah, so I think it's also using that thinking mode and that challenging. So, for instance, I had a client who has a big in retail space, and I know she was thinking, I need to grow retail, need to grow retail. And I'm saying, well, let's look at what the market's doing in retail. Let's do some research. And a really good research tool is Perplexity for your listeners. It's one of the best because it cites everything and it doesn't have as much hallucinations in terms of data. So what is the market doing in terms of retail? Where's the market shifting? Getting all that data back and saying what's the size of the market, and then actually looking at what about e-com. It actually came back and said you're leaving so much money on the table because you're not leaning enough into e-com. And the outcome of that is, and we're just sitting there using it as a strategy tool, and I was helping her play with it to get a sense of how she can really use it. And then when we lent into e-com a little bit more, her business grew by $10 million. not just like that. It sounds just like that. There was a lot of work in the background, but then we built out what does that look like? How do you need to change your structure? What other experience do you need in the business? And we were able to do that it wasn't even 12 months. And she did not think that was possible at the time. So it's using it to really, again, challenge your thinking, I think is the critical part, and ask it, what assumptions am I making? Where am I leaving money on the table? Is there any other opportunities or for me to grow? Or where could I grow 10 million in the next 12 months? And where do you see that? But what it feeds you back, you got to challenge, right? Until you get deep down that, yeah, this is right. I know this is right for my business. Because at the end of the day, the AI doesn't have context on your business and your nuances and what's going on within your business. So you've really got to feed it that intelligence. And the more you do that, the more it'll get a sense of who you are. But what I would say also too is there's been an update with ChatGPT, and it's forgotten a lot of memory lately over the last 2 weeks. So we need to be aware of those things too, because it's not feeding back to the same degree that it was previously.
And so that gets me to really the next step, which is what data should business owners really feed into AI that is a must?
First and foremost, I would say make sure you have your privacy settings to the highest standard it can be. Okay, so free versions, for instance, they're sending memory back to the learning center. So make sure that you've turned all your privacy to the right degree. And then if we're to talk about data, it depends on the business itself. But what I would say is that every business has revenue. And so, for instance, let's go back to an e-com business. An e-com business is analytics, website conversion rates. And I always say, if you look at your leads, right, how many leads are we getting? And that could be across a sales orientated business, not just e-com. How many leads are we getting? What is our conversion on those leads? And how much revenue do we actually want to make? So, for example, if you want to grow $10 million, and your conversion rates are at 5%, you're going to have to get a lot of leads into that system to be able to get that outcome. So you've either got two leverage points. The first leverage point is more leads. Second leverage point is higher conversion. And I always say, what's stalling our leads or what's stalling our conversion? And which one will actually shift the needle the most. And you'll find that if you start asking AI those questions for your business, it'll help you to see what those constraints are and then solve them, because constraints are a biggest opportunity for businesses. The other thing I would say there as well is that when we talk about constraints or AI, is that the more context we give it, the more it'll get a sense of us as well. And I always ask my AI, and it's a built-in prompt that I've set up. It needs to ask me 3 relevant questions on next stage after we finish each of our chats. And it's easy for me to then prompt it into the next direction.
I love it. That is so cool. So I know that we said that tools are not really the question and it's more like the strategy. But if we were to talk about tools, what are the 3 top tools that are a must for every business to really have in place?
Well, definitely your chats. So whether you're using Claude Cowork, ChatGPT, or Copilot, and feeding them into your systems and into your profile, your emails, etc. So I think the next stage is really co-work stage, is not just the chat stage, and we're seeing the move shift there a lot. So I definitely say start looking at co-working and how you build that into your system. Using the other thing I love is, like, if you're building websites, let's say, or you want apps, Lovable is great. There, you can prompt it to start building those apps and websites for you too, and it's fairly easy to use. use. I've also got some clients who are using N8N, which helps build chatbot bots for you by prompting it to build those bots and then integrating it into your businesses. And then, of course, we've got, I love one which is really simple, which is called Start Flow. I have it on my phone, and I think we're moving more towards voice prompting and texting. And so, for instance, I record Start Flow, and it will just it'll write everything that I'm saying into it and then send it as a text or as a voice. And I think it's helped me from an efficiency perspective because I hate texting or I hate sending email. Like I want to voice and then it types it out and sends it.
Oh, I love it. That is so helpful. Thank you for sharing that. So, look, I sometimes I came in a lot of groups, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a buzz thing. We go to networking events, and everybody's talking how they use AI, they did this thing, they did that thing, and so I always go back to the business, going, okay, let's implement this thing. And there is one thing that I was like, are you kidding me? Is that actually a thing? So there is this business that I know personally, and they were saying I was able to replace my appointment setter
Yeah.
with AI. And
Yeah.
the AI is actually doing a better job because it's studying the conversations and it's connecting Apollo to LinkedIn. And I was like, wait, what? Like, how? Like, I'm literally like, okay, I need to step up my game. This is like not even funny anymore. So if someone is listening to this and like me, they're like, where do I start to do something like that? What do you recommend? To hire someone that is an expert? How do we find an expert to come and help us set this up? Like, to help me understand.
Yeah. So first of all, I would say do research, become knowledgeable, but think about what your business needs first, right? Because you can go and get experts, and I've seen them come into businesses and businesses they don't understand the business's nuances. So I think you've got to get clear first on what problems you're trying to solve for your business for growth and then do some research around what's out there. You're your own best advocate, and it could be that a AI expert is what's needed. But you know what? AI is so intuitive. Like you can, like I said before, you can build websites, you can build apps by using these tools. Start to play with them. The other thing I forgot to mention as well, and this has been critical to my business and to a lot of my clients' businesses, if you have a website and that's your core asset and people look for you via this website, start to think about how you're using what I call the we used to be called SEO. Now it's question answer optimization. How are you actually using that structure and putting questions on your website that people are actually searching for? Because you're going to rank in AI for answers. And that is really critical. And I think there are a few tools out there that you can actually use. One of them is called AirOps. And even the Chat GPT and Claude, if you ask it, this is my business, what are the questions being searched, or even Perplexity, it'll give you the data. So, and I think that's a space not many people are playing in. And I have seen my massive growth in that area because I was one of the first adopters. So if there's anything, if anyone has a website, start to look at how you can leverage being found in AI because people are going to jump on that really quickly, but early adopters are going to be able to capitalize on it.
And do you think that AI is going to put some sort of ads sponsored to be able to be at the top of the search as well?
Yes, I do. That will become secondary because what's happening now also too is the race to be ahead of AI is costing billions and billions of dollars. They need to recuperate that return on investment and the infrastructure required because of the energy that it consumes is just it's getting out of control, the costs associated with it, and they're going to need to be able to recuperate that cost. And what I believe will happen as a trend as well is that the amount we're going to have to pay for AI is going to increase. So based on the expenditure required right now, if consumers of AI are not having a minimum $100 kind of monthly subscription, it's just not going to be as commercially viable. So I reckon that that's going to increase. So that's why I say know the tools that are most critical to your business, because you won't be able to start to afford every tool out there. So know which ones are, and then they'll do ad because they need to see that return on investment, and that's going to come in sooner rather than later. But it's going to get a lot more expensive. So capitalize on it as much as reasonably possible now, and know the tools that work for you.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. I could talk to you a whole day about this because it's like one of the things that is a little bit of out there as a buzzword and everybody's using it, but are we actually using it to increase the business? Like if you were to recommend to a client, like this is the one thing that you need to do the next 30 days to add revenue to your business leveraging on AI, what would be that one thing?
Well, I would say definitely the website
Yeah.
element of it, without a doubt. The thing is, every business is very nuanced.
Hmm.
And I don't believe there's a one size fits all. I think if you think about what's your actual strategy, what is hindering your growth, and what tools are out there to help you be able to remove that as an obstacle. And then feed it into AI. Use it as your thinking partner. That to me is one of the biggest things businesses are not doing strategically. They're doing content, right? And we all need to create content, but we're creating a lot of AI slop, and it's pretty obvious. So first, ensure that it's set up correctly to be able to understand what your business wants to achieve and challenge it. And then if you can get website gains, if from a authority perspective, from a traffic perspective, you're going to get more visibility. And I think that would be a shift.
I love it. That's fantastic. So, Caroline, like, what do you love about AI and what does it worry about AI?
I love that it's a thinking partner for me, because my mind can think quite quickly, and I love how it can condense my thinking, and challenge my thinking too, because that to me has always been something really important, and just having that on my desktop. What I'm concerned about AI is the level at which we don't necessarily have any boundaries around it, and particularly these big organizations who are all about commercials and not about ethics. So I worry about the future of AI based on not having those controls. It's a great tool. I leverage it. I think it's an exciting time. But even if we talk, I don't know if your listeners heard about where the whole the agentic AI bots created like a Facebook-based environment. And I think they called it Lookbook off the top of my head. I can't necessarily remember, but and it just there was thousands of them in there. And so they started to talk to each other like they were humans, and talking about humans like we were a species, not part of their
Oh,
humanity. Yeah. And it was all over the news. Now, there are some nuances with that, because, there's some experts that say, well, we're creating environments to really push and test them. And that was one of those environments, because we need to know what the future holds with them. But I do think I am quite worried about if we don't have the right infrastructure in terms of the ethics, how we see them behave, if we just let them control everything, what could actually happen as a result of that.
mm,
And to be honest, that's not, I mean, I don't have control over that.
We all
So,
don't. So we just
no.
have to accept that it
Yep.
is what it is, right?
Yep.
Last question is about team members. So obviously a lot of people are fearing for their jobs, they're fearing for their future, the career, they're saying AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. I have an opinion that it's not going to replace, but if people are very smart and they start to leverage on AI, they're going to maybe be the person in charge of using AI to do the job faster. What do you think about that?
Yes, I do think we are going to see a lot of job losses. I know people are saying it's not. It's going to help amplify. We're seeing that now. Salesforce let a lot of people go because they were able to leverage their sales pipeline by using bots, like you were talking about before, Francesca, and it actually got greater outcomes than humans did. So I do believe that there are going to be job losses. Where I believe we have opportunity, and it's moving so fast. Even for me, it's moving fast. For me, trying to keep up with it is quite difficult. But what I would say is that keep abreast of everything. Try and make sure that your skills are relevant, and using AI, I think, will is a critical skill, but also the critical thinking with AI is the most important skill. And we're not just returning the slop, right? So if you're, let's say, a staff member and you use AI and then you feed that back to your manager or your boss who's an entrepreneur and it's full of slop, that's not going to be acceptable. So really the critical thing is to challenge the thinking. You're in control of it. So know what output it's giving you, not just like accepting the output basically. I think that's the biggest risk we've got as individuals.
I love it. Caroline, thank you so much for all the gold that you share with us. It's fantastic. I know that the audience are going to absolutely love it. And if they go, oh my goodness, can Caroline help me with this? Like, can you tell them how you could help? How can you support businesses that are listening to this, and where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at Caroline Kennedy CEO. You can also look at my website, which is carolinekennedy.com.au, and then just reach out if you have any questions. I'm always open to answering questions. My specialty is helping entrepreneurs scale, particularly, when they're past the million plus kind of environments, and it all starts with strategy. So thinking about what the strategy looks like and removing those constraints. But follow me on social media, even on LinkedIn. I share so much information and intelligence, and you might just get something out of it.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody, you're watching this. We are going to keep bringing incredible speakers to our podcast. And I'm really excited to share more value to you all, because we are not here to do business alone. Together, we grow even faster. So thank you so much for watching. And thank you, Caroline, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Francesca. I've loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this amazing podcast. Now, if you enjoyed this, you're definitely going to love my Facebook group, where I've got over 11,000 people in it, and they're all business owners successful like you. It's called the Successful Entrepreneur Lounge, and in there I do classes every week, and I get to interview my clients, and I get to teach you all the things that I've done to get my business to 100K plus a month. So I look forward to have you in there. It's called the Successful Entrepreneur Lounge Facebook group in Facebook. I look forward to see you there. Ciao.